Akhandamandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupaswarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakhyam Namami Bhaktashaktikam Vasudevasutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Narayanam Namaskritya Naranchaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamutirayet Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Sarvebhyo Namaha. Welcome to this session. We are in the middle of the 15th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita. Before I go forward, let me revisit our understanding that the Bhagavad-Gita is essentially about our consciousness. The Gita is a book which advises us to transform our consciousness and thereby experience the best happiness that we can. Therefore, consciousness is our priceless treasure. You can say the most valuable treasure that we have. So we are currently doing the 15th chapter. We have completed 9 shlokas of the 15th chapter, and today we will do the 10th and the 11th shloka. Before I start the 10th shloka, we will do a quick recap of what we learned in the first 9 shlokas. So, in the 15th chapter, the material existence, which is described also elsewhere in the Gita, is also known as samsara. Samsara is described using the metaphor of an ashwatha vriksha or a peepal tree. The metaphor of an inverted peepal tree is used, whose roots are pointing upwards and whose branches are pointing downwards. So why is it like that? Because the root of this material existence, one way to understand it is Brahma, who lives in Satyaloka. He is the most subtle entity in this universe or in this material existence, and through him the existence expands for us. So he is the root, or you can say his parent or his origin, that is Vishnu, is the root. And material existence spreads as numerous branches of the tree as we go down. As consciousness spreads downwards, the branches go in different directions, and they are actually representing the different species that we experience. The same Jivatma goes through different types of species, as human beings, as devas, as animals, insects, birds, whatever. But it's the same Jivatma which experiences these different existences. The Ashwatha is a suitable metaphor, Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti says, is because the samsara, the material existence, actually, it's a context in which all the 4 vargas for our elevation, dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, different types of human activity, you can say, or different purposes in human life, they are possible. So the samsara is a context or a stage on which all these 4 types of human activities or 4 human pursuits are done. And the ashwatha is something that facilitates all the 4 of them. In dharma, in artha, in kama, and in moksha, the ashwatha has a role to play. And therefore, it's a suitable metaphor for samsara. And here, using his wisdom, Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti also makes a very fine point. He says, the word ashwatha, he makes a sort of a expansion on that. He says, na shwaha sthasyati. That's one way to expand the word ashwatha. That which will not exist tomorrow, that which can be said to become non-existent tomorrow. Na shwaha sthasyati in Sanskrit means that which will not exist tomorrow. So for the bhaktas, ashwatha means that. It means today they are experiencing samsara, but tomorrow they will not experience this because they are doing bhakti. And the word avyaya, which is used in the same shloka, the first shloka of the 15th chapter is urdhva moolam adashakam ashwatham prahur avyayam. The Ashwatha is described as avyaya. Avyaya means iska vyaya nahi hota hai, which is non-exhaustible or non-destructible. And so he says, for the bhaktas, it is avyaya, means it will never end, or there is no end to it. Of course, the more general meaning, the meaning which you can get even without going into this fineness, is that the Ashwatha is always existing because there are always living entities or living beings, the Jivatmas, who experience it. Even though for a particular Jivatma, the samsara may end, but for Jivatmas in general, the samsara always continues to exist, and therefore it is avyaya. The leaves of that Ashwatha Vriksha, that tree, they normally leaves of any tree, they nourish the tree and they make the tree good looking, attractive, etc. And therefore, in the shloka, the Vedas, Chandhamsi Yasya Parnani, that's the usage in the shloka, says the leaves are the Vedas. Because the Vedas, a predominant part of the Vedas is called the Karma Kanda. See, the Vedas broadly can be divided into three portions: Karma Kanda, Upasana Kanda, and Jnana Kanda. The Bhagavad Gita's message is about the Jnana Kanda portion of the Veda, but the Gita touches upon the Karma Kanda and points out that one should not get attracted to it. Because the Vedas actually, even though the Vedas are the Shastra, they are the Mula for everything. And for all the activity we do, we are advised to follow what the Veda says, but still, the Karma Kanda part of the Veda is what the Gita says we should stay away from and take our attention to the Jnana Kanda portion. So the leaves of this Ashwatha Vriksha are compared to the Karma Kanda portion because they are the ones which nourish the samsara and sustain its existence, and they make it look good. The Karma Kanda portion of the Veda makes material life look good. And then there are prop roots which emerge from the branches of the tree, and they represent the different types of karma phala. Karmanubandhini manushya loke, it says. So, karma phala generated in human birth, and this extends our samsara. It continues, ensures that the samsara for the jivatma continues. It goes on and on. And finally, yastam vedasa vedavit. One who knows this Veda, or one who knows this tree, understands the real purpose of the Veda. And the hidden meaning there is that knowing the tree means not just knowing what is given in the lines above here, but knowing that the tree is something that ought to be cut down. The tree is something that ought to be got rid of, not something to be nourished and sustained, but something that is to be chopped down. One who understands that understands the real purpose of the Veda. And the idea is not that the tree must be sustained, but that the tree must be destroyed. So, having said this, Sri Bhagavan then talks about, he says that this vriksha is very difficult to understand. It's, where it begins, where does it end, what is its basis or foundation. These things are not easy to sort out by themselves. So, if a human being, like you see, even in Western philosophy, there's a basic question, existential question about who are we, where do we come from, or why do we exist? What is the purpose of human existence, right? Of course, most people disregard this question because they're absorbed in material life. They don't think this question is of relevance to them. Or they think that if we start asking this question, then our life will stop. We will then not be able to enjoy our life, which is our goal, to enjoy our life. But they don't think that, even before you enjoy, you should know why you are enjoying. Why is it that, how long will you continue to enjoy? It is just like somebody, a student is in high school, and you would want the student, an intelligent student, should think about what he will do after high school, right? It's not he's going to continue to be in high school forever. He's going to leave high school after he finishes his 12th standard. So after 12th standard, what will he do? So he should start thinking about it by the time he reaches his 10th standard or so. So this is what we would want any intelligent child to do. If that is true, then why don't we ask the same thing about our life as a whole? What happens after this life is over? Why are we living? What is the purpose of life? It's not that we are going to live forever, we are going to die one day. So this question doesn't come to most people, or even if it comes, they disregard that question and they go away. And the few people who ask this question here, Krishna says, is are unable to resolve it. It's not easily resolved because the samsara's beginning, end, foundation, all these things are very difficult to disentangle or very difficult to unravel and know. But even if you cannot do all that, you can still do something. You can chop down that samsara. Forget about finding out when it came from or when it's going to end, etc. You can just think of chopping it down because that's the purpose. The purpose of human life is to just chop down this samsara. And after doing that, what happens? We realize our true consciousness, our true self. Our true existence begins when we chop down this samsara. Okay, so what is the way to do it? There is a weapon, and the weapon is called asanga or anasakti, detachment. So one must use this weapon of asanga or anasakti and chop down that people tree. And thereby one must seek that perfect existence, right? Tat padam parimargitavyam. So he says one should seek that perfect existence. Padam means existence or state, upon attaining which one does not return to material existence. One does not get back this material consciousness again. So that is that existence. So how does one do it? So earlier he said with the weapon of asanga, but the weapon of asanga is used by taking the refuge of the universal being, who we know through the Bhagavad-Gita is Sri Krishna himself, who is speaking the Gita to us. So by taking refuge in that universal being, one can overcome or one can chop down this tree and attain one's original consciousness, one's pure consciousness. And it's pointed out that it's from Krishna that this material existence also originates. Okay. The next thing that he says is how do we, what does it involve to take refuge in Krishna? So certain qualities are very important. So taking refuge in Krishna is not just about going to a temple and singing some songs or closing your eyes and praying to him that please give me this, please give me that. Instead, one must look inward. It's a process that is about internal transformation. It's all about internal transformation and not really about external activity. Of course, external activity helps us to do that internal transformation. So let's now talk about what is meant by that internal transformation. So first, he says nirmana moha. Nirmana moha means giving up the craving, one who is free from the craving for others' honor and respect. You see, this is something that is innate to all of us in our current state of existence, isn't it? All of us want this. Every one of us, without exception, wants respect from others, wants to be honored. When I say respect, I don't mean just a dignified treatment. Okay, everybody wants a dignified treatment, and we have a right to. Everybody has a right to be dignified. But the point I'm trying to make is that we want to go beyond that. We want others to tell us that you are great, you are smart, you are intelligent. Oh wow, you achieved something that nobody else can achieve. You are the best in the group. So we want this. We want to hear this again and again from others. And this is called mana. Mana. Mana means the expectation for respect. Man. Okay, so one should give that up. One should give up that craving for that thing. Now, this does not mean one should become disrespectable. No, not at all. One should always conduct oneself in a way that is respect worthy, and one should be always dignified and noble. So, if you see a really spiritually mature person, they are most respect worthy in their behavior, in their conduct, and in the way they treat others. But you will see that they have no craving for respect for themselves. So this is the first quality. Second, nirmana moha jita sanga dosha. Jita sanga dosha means the defect or the shortcoming that we have in us by which we become attached to everything. Okay, once we like something, then we want that thing. We can't give it up. Right? Similarly, when we dislike something, then we can't tolerate it. We just have to. So both like and dislike are two forms of attachment. Right? So neither like nor dislike, a state in which one is universally or equanimously disposed towards everything. One sees everything as a part of Bhagavan. Okay, that is the basis for detachment. Unless one is able to see that, true detachment does not come. So again, here I've pointed out in the past too that giving up attachment or overcoming attachment does not mean giving up responsibility or commitment or accountability. For example, one may have a family right? To look after. One may have either spouse and children, or one may have parents to look after, or both. One may have certain other commitments to society, right, which one has already taken up and which one is now accountable for. So detachment does not mean becoming unaccountable, becoming, you can say, complacent or nonchalant. None of these things. One remains very responsible, very committed, very sincere in their duties, etc. But one is detached. Detached means one doesn't get disturbed by what happens eventually as one goes about doing one's activities in a sincere manner. The third quality, adhyatma nitya, nirmana moha jita sanga dosha, adhyatma nitya. Adhyatma nitya means being always conscious of and contemplative on one's and others' true spiritual nature or true spiritual self. The fourth, adhyatma nitya vinivritta kamaha. Vinivritta kamaha means one who has given up the craving for sense-based material pleasures. Okay. Now, this again is something that's very innate in us, and it's not so easy to give up. Because after all, we have been in this material existence for countless, births since eternity, and that is the way in which we have actually reinforced our existence. So we are used to sensual pleasure, and for us, sensual pleasure is equivalent to happiness. For us, happiness means sensual happiness. Happiness through the five senses, the knowledge acquiring senses, and the mind. But Shri Bhagavan says that if we have to cut down the samsara, then we have to overcome that craving. That craving has to be overcome. But again, here too, he points out in the Gita in multiple places that you can't just do it overnight. You can't just say in one moment, you can't say that, okay, now I'm stopping all my sensual indulgence. It's not possible because of the inertia. And therefore, one has to do this with regulation, with proper regulation and discipline. By regulation and discipline, by which one moderates and controls and in a careful manner pulls out of sense craving, one is able to eventually overcome it. Vinivritta kamaha sukha samyair dvandvair vimuktaha. So the last thing he says is being able to come out of the dvandva. Dvandva means the existence of opposites, like something that is good, something that is bad. Like this person is good, that person is bad. This kind of thinking, right? Thinking of positive, negative, of in for all the material interactions we have. Instead, being able to go beyond that positive, negative thinking and seeing everything as a part of the universal system. Okay, some things will be the way they are. Some things can be changed. Some things cannot be changed. Accepting things as they are, accepting reality as it is, and going about doing one's work without thinking of pleasure, pain, desirable, undesirable, happy, sad, etc. Just going about doing one thing, one goes to the next level. So these five qualities are listed in the 15th chapter, in the 4th shloka. So nirmana moha chita sangadosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kamaha sukha dukkha samhyair dvandvair vimuktaha gachanti. So he says such a person eventually attains that padam, that state of consciousness, which is perfection, which is the perfection that we can achieve. So in this perfect state of existence, he says, na tad bhasayate suryo, na shashanko na pavakaha, yad gatva na nivartante tad dhama paramam mama. So in this state of consciousness, one feels self-illumination from within. One does not require in that state of consciousness the sun or the moon. The illumination there is not from something external. That's the point he's trying to make. It's not about the physical object, the sun, moon, fire, etc., which is what we are used to for illumination, but internal illumination. All of one's doubts, all of one's ambiguities in life, vagueness in life, everything gets cleared up because there is light from inside. One does not have to look to somebody else to clear one's doubts. If one looks inside and purifies oneself of all those things which we discussed in the last slide, then automatically illumination comes from within, by which one is able to see life with full clarity. And thereby, one who attains that state will not want to return to their old state, their state of confusion. Why would one who's got clarity in their mind want to come back to confusion? Will anybody want that? Obviously not, right? If somebody is experiencing immense happiness, will they say that, no, earlier I felt sad and therefore now I should again start feeling sad because I can't leave that state? No. Once you start feeling happy, then you want to be happy all the time, right? And that is why he says that one who attains this state will not go back. That's the state of stability, right? And then he says that this is my state. He says, I am situated in that state all the time. So then, after saying all this in the 15th chapter, he goes on to talk about the jivatma. That's each of us, individual beings. The individual beings are in samsara since a long time, and the shloka Mamaivamsho Jiva Loke says the 15th chapter, the fifth shloka, fifth or the sixth, seventh shloka. Sorry, the seventh shloka of the 15th chapter. He says Mamaivamsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhutas Sanatana Manah Shashtani Indriyani Prakritisthani Karshati. So the Jivatma is eternally a part of the Paramatma. Amsha, eternally, Sanatanaha. And this usage, you see, this particular sentence makes it very clear that there is oneness because we are a part of that thing. But because we are eternally a part, a fragment, Amsha, that means we are not the universal being. We are distinct from the universal being. Both are implied in this. One is that we are one with the universal being because we are an amsha of that universal being. Just like you can say anything you take a part of that thing, then you can say it's that thing. Just like the drop of ocean water is actually the ocean itself. But at the same time, it's only a drop. So the amsha and sanatana means it's always a drop. It's always an existing item which exists distinctly. So this is something he points out, and he says, why is it in the samsara, despite the fact that it is a part of that Bhagavan eternally, it is still experiencing samsara? That doubt comes. And you said Bhagavan doesn't experience samsara. It's because of this. It's because of our attachment to those six senses, the five jnanendriyas and the mana, mind. So the six senses, the five senses and the mind, the five knowledge acquiring senses in the mind, with these six senses, the jivatma, goes through samsara. It carries them with it as it goes from one body to another body, just like the moving air carries a smell from the source. Whichever source the air comes in contact with, it carries the smell from that source to wherever else it goes. And the Jivatma samsara extends because the Jivatma wants to experience the sense objects, the desire to experience sense objects through the understanding that my happiness lies in that. This understanding drives the Jivatma to use the senses to get happiness from the sense objects, and thereby, because of that reason, the samsara continues for the Jivatma. Okay, so those are the 9 shlokas, the first 9 shlokas of the 15th chapter. We have just done a very quick summary of them. And today, the 10th shloka. So in the 10th shloka, Sri Bhagavan continues from there and he says, Utkramantam sthitam vapi bhunjanam va gunanvitam vimudhananu pashyanti jnana chakshushaha. So he's pointing out the difference between two types of people or two types of perceptions. One is the vimudha, the person who cannot see the truth, and the jnana chakshushaha, the one who has the eye of knowledge, one who sees through the lens of knowledge, pure knowledge. Right? Pashyanti jnana chakshushaha. So what is the difference between them? The person who is seeing it correctly is able to see that utkramantam means while moving from one body to another body. Utkramantam means exiting the current body. Sthitham means being situated in the current body or in the new body. Bhunjanam va gunanvitam. So whether it is situated in a body or it is exiting from a body, or it is experiencing. Bhunjanam, experiencing. Bhunjanam literally means eating. So here you can say experiencing, consuming, right? Gunanvitam means all the products of the three gunas, which constitute this material energy. So the person who is seeing through the lens of knowledge is able to see that it is just the Jivatma who is in samsara. All living beings are just the same Jivatma, the same type of Jivatma is present in all different bodies. He's able to clearly see that, and he's able to see that it's the three gunas that are making this person or this Jivatma go from one place to another place and carrying its senses along with it, carrying its mind along with it, and trying to become happy by experiencing the objects of the senses. But vimudaha means, literally means a foolish person, or you can say what he means by foolish is a person who is not having that knowledge, a person who's confused about the reality, who doesn't have clarity on what the reality actually is. Such a person, na anupashyanti, is not able to see that truth. Those with the eyes of knowledge see the self as the jivatma, as distinct from the body at all times. When the jivatma is situated in the body, when it leaves the body, and when it experiences the sense objects in terms of pleasures, miseries, and so on, while the ignorant person does not see it as such. Yatanto yoginaschainam pasyantyatmanyavasthitam yatantopyakritatmano nainam pasyantyachetasaha nainam pasyantyachetasaha. So, very similar to the last shloka, here he points out that the yogi who is actually very sincerely endeavoring and who has purified his mind and senses, who is able to overcome, things like the mana and the attachment and so on. Such a person, he is able to see the jivatma as situated within himself, or he is able to see himself as the jivatma, or you can say he is able to see himself as an entity situated within the body. Okay, pashyanti atmani avasthitam. So he's able to see himself as situated in this body, but as distinct from the body. But on the other hand, the akritatma, the word used here means one whose mind is not pure, one who is still attached to the samsara, one who is still not willing to give up their craving for other people's honor, respect, and so on. So this kind of impurity exists in them, who has not been able to overcome that impurity and who is not able to see things clearly. Such a person will not be able to see themselves as the Atma located in the body. Okay, the same point he is reinforcing through another way. The sincerely endeavoring yogis see the self that is situated in the body, but those with an impure mind that lacks the spiritual realization of the self do not see it despite endeavoring. Yatanto api, the first two words of the second line. Yatanto api akritatmanaha na enam pashyanti achetasaha. So, very beautifully, he points out that it's absolutely important for us to chop down this samsara. But in order to chop down the samsara, one must take refuge in that Sri Bhagavan, who is already in that state of existence. By taking refuge in that person, we are able to go to that state. At the same time, we should be willing to give up certain things which belong to this state. And what those things are, he has already pointed out. So by giving up those things, we can one day be able to see. It doesn't happen overnight. It's something that happens over time as we hear this again and again, as we contemplate on it, and as we sincerely try to make it happen. We have to endeavor to make it happen, and then gradually it starts happening. It's just like after the rain is over, the clouds clear, and then the sun comes out, and it's very bright. Everything is very bright and clear. And because of the rain, you can also see, a certain kind of freshness in the environment around you. So this kind of freshness comes when, as one gradually practices this and overcomes one's own impurities and becomes situated in the proper consciousness. So, connecting with Sri Bhagavan, as I have always been pointing out, is the means to do that. And we have been doing the practice of Bhagava-ta-katha. It's something that we can do together. And in every class, I have been narrating a little, anecdote or something from the Bhagavatam, from the Dashama skandha of Bhagavatam, which talks about Sri Bhagavan's appearance as Krishna. So, in the last session, we heard about the Kaliya Mardana Leela, where Sri Bhagavan punishes that venomous and wicked snake Kaliya and sends him back to the place he came from, which is called Ramanaka Dvipa, right? So he punishes him, then Kaliya surrenders, and Kaliya says that I, will no longer do this. I've done something wrong. He realizes that he has done something wrong, and he agrees to go back. He goes back, and that's how that particular Leela ends. And what happens from there onwards? So today we'll hear a little bit more about this Leela. So after the Kaliya episode, the little child Krishna, okay, maybe he's about 6 years of age, approximately 6 to 7, somewhere between 6 and 7 years of age. So he comes out of that kunda. And while coming out, his beauty is seen by the people who are standing there. The Vrajavasis, they are very anxiously waiting for him, and they have witnessed the entire spectacle. So he's adorned with divine garlands, ornaments, clothes, etc. There is immense joy among the gopis, the gopas, the cows, and the cows, because he's so dear to them. They like him so much. And then everyone regains their normal consciousness. And Balaram comes forward. Of course, Balaram, being a form of Krishna himself, knows what his little brother is capable of. So he embraces Krishna with intense affection. He's so proud of him. And Krishna's father, Nanda, he gives very liberally dan or charity. The loose translation of dan is charity. And he gives dan to the Brahmanas of Raja with a very generous heart. And Yashoda Ma, seeing her little baby has now safely been, restored, she embraces him very tightly and she sheds tears of love and happiness when she sees that. So then what happens after this? So by then, everybody has gone through a lot of anxiety and mental labor. We say that's emotional labor, mental labor, and everybody is tired and hungry. So they spend the night on the bank of the Yamuna itself. Now it's the hot summer season in Vrindavan, right? So the forest is very dry and parched, and like it does now too, in the summer season, the forests they catch fire. About midnight, the forest of Vrindavan catches fire. All of a sudden there is a huge blazing fire, and the Vrajavasis who are peacefully sleeping there by the Yamuna, they suddenly wake up and see that there is a fire that's blazing around them and there is no way to come out of it. It's all around them. And they instantly seek refuge in Krishna and Balaram and they pray to him, say, please protect us. We cannot leave your lotus-like feet, the residence of fearlessness. Now, here, the fine meaning is that, the Vrajavasis always thought about their connection with Krishna. They cannot live for a moment without him. They have to always see him. They want to always be connected to him. So the thought that anything, any danger which comes can be a source of separation. You see, anything which comes can separate us from that Krishna whom we are very dear to. So the prayer here is not for their personal safety. It's not that they want to protect themselves. It's out of some kind of selfishness, but it's out of that selflessness that we don't want to lose our connection with you. We want your welfare. We want you to be happy and we want our service to you to continue. Okay, that mentality is present here. So seeing this panic and distress, what does Krishna do? He looks at that fire and instantly drinks that fire. And in the shloka here, Shri Vyasdevji uses the word apibat. Apibat in Sanskrit means drinks. So he drinks the fire and extinguishes the fire. So Shri Shuka Uvacha, after that what happened? Ata Krishna parivrito gyatibhir muditatmabihi anugiyamano nyavishat vrajam gokula manditam. So after this fire was put out, then Krishna, surrounded by Gyatibihi, by all those people who know him, his accomplices, which includes those cows, the gopas, gopis, his parents, all the relatives. So with all of them, he entered the Vraja. He went back to Vraja. Gokula Mandita means which is filled with the go. Sri Krishna entered Vraja, which was filled with go. He was surrounded by his accomplices who were joyful within and who sang and described his good qualities. Vraje vikridyatorevam gopalachadma mayaya grishmo namarturabhavat nati preyan charirinam. In this manner, Krishna and Balarama played around in Vraja as the protectors of the go, covered by their yoga maya. See, Naham Prakasha Sarvasya in the Bhagavad-Gita 7th chapter, Naham Prakasha Sarvasya yoga maya samavritaha mudhoyam nabhijanati lokoma majamavyayam. He says, I am always covered by my yoga maya and I am not visible, I am not seen to the ordinary personality. The Grishma Ritu, the season, summer season arrived. Okay, Grishma is the season, the hot summer season of Vaishak and Jesht. When it comes, it becomes extremely hot all over the country, right? And this naturally was not dear to anyone with a material body because it's full of, causes so much inconvenience. However, Sacha Vrindavana Gunair Vasantaha iva Lakshitaha. Sacha Vrindavana Gunaihi Vasantaha iva Lakshitaha. Yatraste Bhagavan Sakshat Ramena Saha Keshavaha. Says, because they are in Vrindavan, owing to the qualities of Vrindavan, however, it seemed like the Vasanta season, like the spring season. Even though it was hot summer season, to the residents of Vrindavan who were with Krishna, uh, it appeared like it was the spring season, and to the forest as well, because this is where Sri Bhagavan Keshava himself resides along with Balaram. So it's described, the natural beauty of Vrindavan is described here, how it was always filled with the shrill sounds of insects, but those sounds of the insects were always drowned by the gentle roars of springs and waterfalls everywhere. There was always abundant water everywhere, flowing everywhere, and the cool spray from the waters, it fostered the greenery all around, and thereby the forest was always covered with carpets of green cover. There was greenery, beautiful greenery everywhere. And the gentle, fragrant, and cool spray, it was very fragrant, it was very cool. And the spray, it came from the rivers, it came from the ponds. There were numerous ponds, and there were falls, waterfalls in different places. They carried the pollen of the colorful lotuses in those ponds. And when the spray, it touched the bodies of the Vrajavasis, it protected them from the heat, and they felt so good about it. They had a very pleasurable time. And the abundant water in the water bodies, their waves were always coming to the shore. And because the waves were coming and contacting the shore, the shores were always clean, looking always clean and fresh. And the surrounding ground around these water bodies always remained moist and green, so even the fierce sun could not dry it. The trees in that forest were always laden with flowers, and beauty was pouring from them in all directions. There were colorful birds which flittered around, and there were flocks of deer which ran here and there. The sounds of peacocks, the hums of the bees, the coils, the cooing of the coils, and the calls of the cranes, they filled the air in that forest. क्रीड्ष्यमाणः तन् कृष्णः भगवान् बलसंयुतः Venum Viranayan Gopair Godhanai Samvrito Vishat. So, such a beautiful forest is what Krishna and Balaram entered every day. Desiring to play there, Sri Bhagavan Krishna, accompanied by Balaram, entered that forest and playing on his flute and surrounded by the Gopas and the Go. So, this was a daily routine for him. So, how did they play? What kind of things did they do? So, they did what we see children today also doing, right? So, children, they decorated themselves in various ways with leaves, shoots, peacock feathers, garlands made from colorful flowers, clay, and other forest items. So, even today, if you go to a forest and you see the children living there in the tribal villages in those forests, you'll see them doing this. They'll be playing with the leaves, the shoots, and the feathers of the birds. They'll be throwing pebbles at each other. They'll have fun in different ways, climbing the rocks, climbing the trees, jumping from them, jumping into the waters. Right? If you go to the bank of Mother Ganga anywhere in India, you are likely to see children jumping from trees into the water, and you'll be shocked because you'd never imagine that somebody can jump into that water of that fast flowing river and still be fine. And then you'll see the children playing in the water, coming out of it, again going jumping into it, having fun. And this is exactly how, when Sri Bhagavan manifested himself 5,000 years back in Vrindavan, along with his own, his own self as Balaram, he played like this. He enjoyed himself like this. So among those children, someone would be dancing, someone would be wrestling with another child, someone would suddenly start to sing, and when Krishna himself starts to dance, then one of the Gopas would immediately start singing, seeing that there Krishna is dancing. Now let me sing. for him. Another Gopa would immediately come and pick up the flute and start playing it. Another one would start blowing the horn. Another one would start playing the drum. Another one would just start saying, "Arey, wah, wah, kitna sundar lag raha hai," like that. And when similarly, when the Gopa was dancing, then Krishna and Balaram would reciprocate in the same way. They would start singing for that Gopa. They would play the flute for him. They would blow the horn. They would call out an appreciation. So in this way, mutually, they would have very, very affectionate games and sports with each other. And seeing this, the devatas, you see in the beginning, right in the beginning of the Dashama Skandha, it's described how when Mother Bhumi, when she prays to Brahmaji, and Brahmaji goes and, along with the devatas, they go to the bank of the Shir Sagara and they pray to Vishnu that please help us. And Vishnu says that I will now come and I will appear as the son of Vasudeva. So he tells the devatas, he sends a message to the devatas that now I want all of you to also appear and assist me in my leelas. So the excited devatas, they know that now Sri Bhagavan, their Bhagavan is actually now performing the leelas on Bhulok. So they are watching all the time, they are carefully watching, and we see in every leela that they appear and they are appreciating. So now here in these leelas of Vrindavan, they disguise themselves as Gopas. They take the appearance of Gopas and they mix with the Gopas and they also offer their prayers. They sing to Krishna and Balaram and they try to take part in it. Of course, we must realize that just by taking the appearance of Gopas, one doesn't become a Gopa. Becoming a Gopa or a Gopi means developing that inner bhav, that inner consciousness of seva. It's the seva bhav and the flavor of that seva bhav, that pure seva bhav, which makes somebody equivalent to a Gopa or a Gopi, not merely a change of appearance. So even though here we see devatas disguising themselves as Gopas, it is not that they become Gopas. They don't become Gopas. They just come there and they are among them. They just physically are present among them and they try to experience that happiness which they are experiencing. And it's described further that Krishna and Balaram sometimes lock their hands with each other and they run in circles around each other. They playfully run in circles. And then the boys, they leap high to outdo the others. They wrestle with each other. They throw fruits at each other. So there is competition in love. And they play hide and seek and they play the games which today's children play and the games which you and I played when we were children. Catch me if you can. And they also sometimes imitate the animals and the birds. They make calls like the peacock's calls and so on. And they sometimes make, ropes out of the forest vines and they create swings out of them, jula. They create julas and they swing on each other's arms also sometimes and so on. So Shri Vyasadeva ji concludes this section by describing how evam tau lokasiddhabhihi क्रीडाभिश्चेर तुर्वने नद्यद्रिद्रोणि कुञ्जेषु नद्यद्रिद्रोणिकुञ्जेषु काननेषु सरस्सु च. So Krishna and Balaram played just like ordinary children in the forests, the rivers, the mountains, the streams, the falls, the lakes, the groves, and the gardens in the forest of Vrindavan. In this way, they spend their time in Vrindavan, and that's why Vrindavan today is considered a very blessed place. It has always been considered a very blessed place. It's said that Sri Bhagavan always resides there. But 5,000 years back, he manifested himself to the eyes of the world, and the world could see him doing these activities, and it's documented by Vyasadeva ji here. So this is how he played, and this actually was done not because he just wanted to enjoy himself, but he wanted to show us the possibility. He wanted to open our doors. He wanted to open the doors for us to his existence. That is what the Bhagavad-Gita is about, and the Bhagavatam gives us the details of what his world looks like. So just reflecting on some of the things that we have been reading, we desire constant happiness, and it's our right. Happiness is our natural right. You see, we say, for example, in India, freedom is our birthright. We say that, right? Now, freedom is our birthright, but happiness is our natural right. It's more than freedom. It is innate happiness. It's that innate happiness which is natural to us, and we should experience it all the time. We ought to experience it all the time, but we don't experience it all the time. That's the reality. Because sadness keeps coming to us, sadness plagues us. So, to resolve this sadness, the problem of sadness, what do? We pursue things like money, property, luxury, technology. We believe technology will solve all our problems. Experiences through all of these things. Then we also, ensure that we have security. We pursue status. So we believe all these things will, sort of solve the problem of sadness and ensure that we are always happy, right? But does it really happen? It doesn't happen. They give us some relief, but the sadness continues to persist. And the best thing means the worst thing actually, or you can say the ironical thing is that even those who have these things, and the people who have more of these things actually have more sadness too. We see that, right? Every day in the newspaper, we hear stories and reports of people who are extremely rich, people who are very secure, people who have the best status in the society. They are plagued more by sadness than the people who are not so rich. The people who are much simpler, people who are poorer. If you compare the miseries that your own maidservant has in the house with the miseries that some super rich man has, some multi-crore businessman has, you'll probably see that this maidservant actually has got a more peaceful life than that fellow. That fellow has got much more, but she's got a more peaceful life. So actually, these things, ironically, even though we pursue them, the paradox is that what we do to make us relieved of sadness actually makes us more sad. It gives us more sadness. So it's actually a paradox. This is because why we are in that paradox is because we don't know this truth. And what is that truth? The truth is that genuine happiness is right inside us. It's not outside. It is not something that we get through those things. It is something that we get by looking inside us. It's already inside us. And how do we uncover it or how do we access it? We access it by clearing the dirt inside us. What we spoke about earlier in the class today. We clear the dirt and we connect with that Bhagavan. That Bhagavan also is residing right inside us. That Vrindavan is right inside us. We don't have to buy a train ticket or a flight ticket and go to Vrindavan, the physical Vrindavan that we see. That Vrindavan exists right inside us. Sitting in our own room, we can experience that Vrindavan if we purify that mind. And, connecting with Bhagavan and discovering one's true self is the access to that truth. So, what is the goal? The goal is this. The purpose of life should be to experience that truth by removing kama, krodha, lobha. Kama, krodha, lobha, these are considered the three doors to hell. Right? Trividyam narakasyedam. So, trividham narakasyedam, dwaram nashanam atmanaha, kamaha, krodhas, tatha lobha, tasmat etat trayam tyajet. 16th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita. So these three should be destroyed and one should replace them with seva bhav, bhakti, prem, etc. And the process of doing that is given by Prahalad in the Bhagavatam, in the Saptama Skandha, in the seventh Skandha of Bhagavatam, in a conversation with his father Hiranyakashipu. Prahalad says when Hiranyakashipu asks him, what have you learned from your teachers? Okay. So Hiranyakashipu wants to hear that I have learned about politics, I have learned about how to kill my enemies, I have learned about how to become more powerful, I have learned about how to enjoy my senses. But what does Prahalad tell him? He says this. He says, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnoho Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakhyam Atmanivedanam Iti Pumsarpita Vishnu Bhaktischennava Lakshana Kriyeta Bhagavatyadha Tanmanye Adhitam Uttamam. He says these 9 things. Shravanam means hearing about Bhagavan, Bhagavad-katha, the tattva. Hearing all that. Kirtanam means reciting it, talking about it. Smaranam, thinking about it, contemplating upon it. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. These 3 things, most fundamental to any sadhana. Then Pada Sevanam, serving the lotus-like feet of that deity. Archanam means doing puja. Vandanam, offering one's pranam. Vandanam literally means offering one's pranam by lying down on the ground, right? Obeisance, pranam. Dasyam, by considering oneself always a servant of that being. Sakhyam, by considering oneself as a friend or considering that universal being as one's dearmost friend and well-wisher. Sakhyam. Atmanivedanam, offering everything to that living being, living one's life completely for that universal being, Atmanivedanam. So he says, Iti Pumsarpita Vishnu, and these 9 things must be offered to Vishnu. Atmanivedanam, Iti Pumsarpita Vishnu, Bhaktis Cheta Navalakshana. This Navalakshana bhakti must be performed. Tan Madhye, Kriyeta Bhagavati Adha, means this must be done certainly to Bhagavan. Kriyeta, it ought to be done Bhagavati to Bhagavan. Adha means certainly, indeed. And Tanmanye Adhitam Uttamam. He says, this is what I consider Tanmanye as the Uttamam Adhitam, as the highest thing I have learned, the greatest among all the things I have learned. So he doesn't say what he learned from the 2 teachers that Hiranyakashipu appointed for him. He's talking about what he learned in his existence. And of course, he's referring to what the instructions that he heard from Narada, his guru. His guru is Narada, and it so happens that Narada appears when he is in the womb of his mother. When his mother is carrying him in the womb, at that time, Narada appears and talks to her. He talks to her and he gives her Gyan, Bhagavad Gyan, Bhakti. And at that time, Prahlad also listens by the blessings of his guru. He also gets to hear all this, and that's the latest edition of the instructions that he receives. And so he recollects that. So he tells Hiranyakashipu, this is the greatest thing that I think I have learned ever. And so for us also, this is a lesson. We learn so many things, but we should adopt this in our life, and this will completely transform our life for something better. So with these thoughts, I will stop for today, and I'll be happy to hear your questions, your comments, etc. Please feel free to ask anything that comes to your mind. Something may not be clear. Some places the Bhagavad Gita goes into technicalities. We talked about some technical aspects today. These are also covered in Sankhya philosophy. But feel free to ask me whatever I'm aware of. I will be happy to share with you.
So I have a question.
Who is it?
Anjana.
Anjana. Yes, Anjana. Please.
While we were discussing this topic of happiness,
Yeah.
you mentioned that we tie happiness to materialistic pleasures, and that's
Yes.
the reason of sadness of a lot of us. So you mentioned a list of objects and things that we pursue. I just wanted to know the role of people and relationships also in that list. Like, is that also a reason of sadness? And if that is, should that be, or we should be um, we should be free of that also for our own happiness?
Exactly. So very much. I did not include that. Very much. It's in the list. We pursue relationships with other living beings, other human beings, and also with
Mm.
animals, sometimes like pets and so on. And so this actually defines our status. The last item here, status, implicitly captures relationships, because status comes through relationships, right? It's through
Mm.
relationships that we become whatever status we have as somebody's wife, somebody's husband, somebody's father, mother, or as somebody prominent in society. If we have to be recognized as somebody prominent in society, it happens through the relationship that we have cultivated in whatever role that we have performed, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, yes, the pursuit of relationships happens for acquiring different types of statuses, and love, of course. We experience love through relationships, right? When somebody, for example, let's say a child who comes and interacts, with a child interacts with us, then we feel that love. We want to give love to that child, and we reciprocate, and the child gives us that love. The child says something lovingly to us. We feel so good about it, right? Similar,
Really.
yeah, with animals, with our spouse, with our friends, right?
And the opposite is also true. So, like, if something adverse happens, our happiness goes for a toss. So, my question is that should we add people and relationships also in the list of not pursuing, or how should we manage that with respect to our happiness?
Yes. So let me answer this like this. You see, on the path of bhakti, it's so beautiful that It says you don't have to actually give up anything. What you have to give up is the way you look at it. So, right now, when we are not conscious of Bhagavan, when we don't have that connection with Bhagavan, we look at these things in isolation. We look at these things as the sources of happiness. Instead, when we bring Bhagavan into our life, we start seeing that He is actually the source of our happiness, not these things. So then we start seeing everything through the lens of Him, through His lens. That is, He
Mm.
becomes the important element. So, for example, now, let's say the relationship with one's own child or with one's own spouse, which no doubt should always be a loving relationship. The same love
Mm.
should continue. But now you
Mm.
start seeing that your spouse actually is a part of that Bhagwan. He is actually a manifestation of that Bhagwan for you in this particular life. Your child has been given to you by Bhagwan, and your job, your responsibility to the child is to take care of that child in a proper dharmic manner. Teach the child the
Mm.
principles of dharma which are pleasing to Bhagavan. Everything you do, everything you experience with the child should be seen through the lens of that dharma, which is a part of Bhagavan, which comes from Bhagavan. See, when you bring Bhagavan into your life, you see everything through that lens, and all these things, money, property, luxury, technology, everything, you connect with Bhagavan and then see everything as a element in the seva to that Bhagavan in that connection. And then there is
Okay.
no problem. Then it only helps you to purify that consciousness. Automatically, detachment, automatically, freedom from that craving for respect. All those things automatically happen. When we bring
Mm.
Bhagavan and realize that He is the one who should get prominence, He is the one who should get respect, He is the one who should be pleased, not me. I'm only a small element of Him. I'm only a small part of Him. I'm His servant, right? I'm His dasa or dasi. Then all these things, we don't have to give up these things. So when I say that to resolve this, we look for this, what I mean is we look for this without Bhagavan. But when we do this with Bhagavan in our midst, then it becomes completely different. It becomes the opposite. It gives us genuine happiness. It takes us towards that genuine happiness. This is what connecting with Bhagavan means in practical.
And and even in case of obstacles, we might develop an understanding that this is the will of Bhagwan.
Yes, very much. When obstacles pop up, how do we respond? First of all, we think, how would he want me to respond to it? What would he want
Mm.
me to do? So we then think, okay, in this practical world, there are certain ways in which we respond to situations. A certain
Mm.
situation must be responded to in a particular manner, right? Now, let me keep Bhagavan in my mind. Let me remember him. Let me think about him. Ask him for wisdom. Ask him to guide me as I go through this response, as I go through my response to that particular situation, that difficult situation. Let me ask him to guide me. You see, I'll give you a very simple example. The story of, Ashwatthama kills the five sons of Draupadi. The sons
Mm.
of Draupadi are sleeping just after the Kurukshetra war has got over on the 18th day, I think. And the night, the five sons of Draupadi are sleeping, and then Ashwatthama, because he's so angry and so vengeful, he comes and he wants to actually kill the Pandavas, but he ends up killing the five sons of the Pandavas because they look like them. And he runs away because he realizes that he has done something extremely unacceptable. So he runs away. He basically flees on his chariot. And then when they realize this has happened, the Pandavas, they immediately, have to take action. So Arjuna and Krishna, they get on the chariot, and Krishna drives the chariot, and they're chasing Ashwatthama. They catch up with Ashwatthama, and just as they are catching up with him, he sees them and he releases the Brahmastra. The Brahmastra is such a, the most dangerous weapon, the most powerful weapon, and they also know that he doesn't know how to take it back. He only knows how to release it, right? So now the Brahmastra has come, and it's the biggest challenge, right? Now, so far in the Kurukshetra war, nobody used the Brahmastra. Now the Brahmastra is being used. They used all other powerful weapons, and Arjuna and Yudhishthira and all the other warriors on the Pandavas side, they managed to counter them, and they somehow managed to win the war. Now, Brahmastra has come, the most dangerous weapon has come after everything is over. So, what do I do? So, the first thing that Arjuna does is he turns to Krishna and he bows down to him, he circumambulates him. He does a parikrama of Bhagavan and he says that with your blessings, I will counter this. So he doesn't say that now you counter this for me. You are Bhagavan, you counter this. No, I will counter it, but I need your guidance. I need you to tell me how to do it. So then Sri Bhagavan says, you do it like this. You just send your Brahmastra. You know how to discharge and you also know how to take it back. So you send your Brahmastra and you nullify that and bring both back. Both of them you can counter and take them back. You have the ability, just do it. That's it. Arjuna does not need any more guidance, any more input. And he does it. He just executes it. So we have to respond to the Brahmastras which are thrown at us. Okay, every day different types of astras are thrown at us by different situations in life. Maybe intentionally, sometimes maybe unintentionally, but they come. And so we need to deal with them. And we need to deal with them not by just sitting quietly and praying to Bhagwan, but we just offer that prayer and request for guidance, and then we go ahead and counter them. We do what we can. Now, after that, what happens? Whether we win the gambling match or we lose the gambling match, we don't know. Right? The Pandavas, they lost the gambling match, they were cheated, but they accepted that. They accepted the conclusion, right? With the same face with which they would have accepted if they had won the gambling match. If they had won the gambling match, how they would have felt. They did not feel much different when they lost the gambling match. They said, okay, we got this. Now we will go to the forest and we will live. And even when they had the opportunity to, sort of nullify that. You see the Goshayatra where they could have told Duryodhana that now we will let you free only if you give us back the kingdom. They didn't do any of that. Okay, 13 years we have to spend. We will do it. We'll keep the word. You've given the word to the king, we will do it. We'll go 13 years to the forest, and only when the 13 years are complete, we'll come back. So you see, that is the way to respond. That is the meaning of saying that you have understood what Sri Bhagavan wants. So we
Okay,
accept
so
things, yeah.
from time to time and then doing your actions and accepting the results.
Accepting things as they come and then deciding what to do next. Taking life forward as it comes, but never losing our connection with Bhagavan. Never losing that consciousness. Right?
Even
Only building that consciousness more and more. And always having the understanding that He will protect me. He will keep guiding me. As long as I am connected to Him, He will protect me. He will guide me. Provided I act in accordance with Dharma. I don't take anything for granted. I act in accordance with Dharma. I have His protection as long as I am within the purview of Dharma. I don't cross the boundary of Dharma. Right?
yes, yes, sir. I totally appreciate it.
Hmm.
Uh, thank you for such a detailed answer, sir.
Welcome. My pleasure. Yeah. Jayashree, you raised your hand. You want to say something?
Yes, I thought being a woman, I'll give my perspective to another woman. So she has asked a very beautiful question, which I think most of us go through in some phase of our life. That is how to deal with these relationship issues. Especially, it comes very much with full force when when a woman gets married and goes into another house and lives with set of unknown people. She has to get to know them and start living in a new house with new uh, way of life. So it's a battle. It's not a battle, but it takes its own sweet time to understand what relationships are. But so far, what I have understood is that seva bhav, if we have within ourselves, that is, for example, if I take like spouse, let us take, because that is something new. We get married quite. I mean, when we are mature and with parents, it's much easier because we have grown up with them. They understand us, and we kind of understand them. So, but a spouse is something like he's the spouse, he or she is also an adult, and he or she has his own values and ways and mannerisms and all that. But if you have the seva bhav, that is, what should I do to uh, make the person comfortable, happy, what is the best way that I can do that within my own abilities. If we have that clarity, and then that is point one. And the second point is expectation. Usually what we do when we, when you greet somebody, say, then we expect the other person also to greet in the same way. Like we smile and greet, then we expect that the other person should also smile and greet us, reciprocate in the same way. But if the person doesn't do that, immediately we have, we judge, okay, that person is angry at us, or he's very rude, or things like that. So the same thing continues with, this kind of attitude, even like between husband and wife also it happens. Like if the husband is, or the wife is not giving gifts for, I've seen many of my cousins complain about this. For wedding anniversary, the spouse is not giving any gift. It's he or she is not reciprocating. So that becomes the source, of all of our happiness or misery. So those expectations should be clear. So if the clarity comes in relationships, because every relation is different. The relation that you have with husband, with or wife, or with father, or with mother, or with child, it's different. So you should be very clear. You means we have to be very clear about what we, how we should serve that person, and what we should, expect. And then the degree of happiness or sadness in the relationship can be, increased or decreased, is my observation or my analysis from my experiences so far in life. I'm definitely more advanced in age than, you. So I thought I'll share my experience with you.
Yes,
I hope
ma'am.
you have, I kind of, um, you know, try to explain what I have in mind. So I
Yes,
hope it
ma'am.
helps you, Anjana.
Yes, ma'am. It was quite helpful. Yes. I really appreciate you sharing the detailed explanation here.
And the other thing that I wanted to add to this, that Ashwatha example which Bhagavan gives in the Vibhuti Yoga, or 10th chapter, he says that Vikshanam Ashwatha. So he uses that Ashwatha tree. He mentions that the Ashwatha tree is one of his vibhutis. So worshipping Bhagavan in the Ashwatha form, I'm just connecting the the first shloka and the last shloka that you did today. The jnanis, they look at Bhagavan, they can in the form of a Ashwatha tree, and that Ashwatha tree is nothing but Bhagavan, and therefore they have that clarity about this samsara, this atma, the jivatma, paramatma, and all these things. So
Yeah.
I just
Yeah, the Ashwatha tree is a source of so many activities connected to dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, all the four of them.
Yes, and in I think I read in Vishnu Puran or Padma Puran, there Vishnu Bhagavan himself tells Narada, I think Narada, that he asks him, how should I worship you? Where all I can see you? So he says, you can, he gives so many different, he mentions about different objects like Tulasi, then he says Ganga, so many. And there Ashwatha is also mentioned. So he says, if you look at Ashwatha tree, remember me. Like, so wherever we see Ashwatha tree, while driving, while, going by train or something, we look at the Ashwatha tree, I think we should quickly remember, oh, this is one of his Krishna's vibhutis. So it should remind us about him.
Good. It's good. Good. Sarthak, you wanted to ask? Nachiket also has. Let's ask Nachiket first. Nachiket, can you go first? Because Sarthak has always been active in the classes. Nachiket is new. Yes, Nachiket.
Hari Om, sir.
Hari
Chiket
Om.
here. Sir, been listening to your discourses from last week only. And recently I've been pondering, sir, that I started developing an interest for Indian Vedic astrology. And then, but I've attended satsangas before, and I've heard the guru they say that the astrology is just some, it's very, it's not very trivial. It's only at the surface level. But if you really want bhakti, you should not consider astrology. You should go against astrology. Even Sadhguru says the same thing. But actually, if you, when I started analyzing astrology a little bit more, I realized there are a lot of spiritual insights to it, like the position of guru or the position of Ketu and all. So I wanted your perspective on how to view Indian astrology. If I could get some insight from you, sir.
My understanding is astrology is a particular discipline of knowledge in the Indian knowledge system. It's called Jyotish Shastra. Jyotish Shastra refers to both astronomy and astrology. Both are included in the word Jyotish Shastra. So it's a valid body of knowledge, and one who knows how to, one who understands it properly and knows how to apply it, such a person can create a lot of value through astrology. And there are different forms in which astrology is practiced in India. One of the interesting forms is the Nadi Jyotish, which is there in the south, in Tamil Nadu. I have seen it myself. It's quite effective. Okay, now in the path of bhakti, yes, we don't go by astrology in the path of bhakti because astrological predictions pertain to the kind of good and bad that is destined to come to us in this lifetime, owing to the activities we have done in the past, to our past karma, right? That's what astrology tells us, what we are supposed to experience in this lifetime, or what we can expect to experience in this lifetime as an outcome of what we did in the past lives. So this is called prarabdha karma. Prarabdha karma means the karma which is been allocated for experiencing in this particular lifetime, in this particular birth that we are currently in. Now, bhakti is a path on which we believe or we understand that the past karma is altered by the process of bhakti, because we hand ourselves over to Bhagavan. We become his das. So he decides whether we should experience that past karma or not, to what extent we should experience it, and how we should experience it, in what context, or when we should experience it. So in a bhakta's life, as we understand, some things may happen which are not in the prediction of astrology. Some things may happen which are in the prediction of astrology as well. And they may happen in different ways at different times and so on. So one who goes on the path of bhakti, we don't use astrology as a primary reference for how we should plan our life. That's how it is in bhakti. Although astrology by itself is a valid science. Jyotish Shastra is a very valid science, a very valid body of knowledge.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Does it answer what you had in mind? What you wanted to know?
Yes, sir. Definitely. It gives me a direction of thought.
Okay. Yeah, so do come back with more question if you have to.
Yes, sir. Definitely.
Yeah. Good. Sarthak?
Hello, Pranam sir, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Yes, sir. Sir, on a lighter note, I think Nachiket should also always have the first right to ask question, because even in Kathopanishad, Nachiket has been described as the ideal sadhaka. So,
Yeah.
yam Nachiket samvad. So, yes,
Yes. True. I agree with you. Yeah.
Sir, my question is that my very superficial understanding or very superficial knowledge of Nyaya, I think there is mentioned that we experience the samsara because we want something from samsara. We feel that I have some desires which can be fulfilled from samsara, and that is why samsara exists. Is that correct?
Samsara exists because of our lack of knowledge. That is what Vedanta says. In Nyaya, so far I have not come across description of samsara or the answer to the question of why we exist in samsara. It is under the discipline
So,
of Vedanta that is discussed.
sir, in Vedanta, we say that samsara exists because of ignorance. Can you
Yes,
please move
avidya.
to the slides before you started the Bhagavad-Katha? I think there you mentioned the reason for existence of samsara.
Yeah. Here.
Mhm. Sir, I'm not recollecting, but in one of the slides you had written why we exist in samsara. There was one of the reasons that it was similar to this, because we want something from samsara. That is why we keep uh, we stay over there, something like that.
Yeah, I mean,
But
in general, what I was trying to say was that as I went through these slides, that because of avidya, avidya is ignorance, and that's the primary cause, the root cause of our being here. Avidya, because of avidya, we think that happiness is that which comes from the sense objects, the material objects of the senses, the vishayas, the indriya vishayas. Because of that, we pursue those vishayas, we go behind them, we chase them. We make it a goal of our life to indulge more and more. Why do we earn money? Why do we work hard and earn money? Because it will give us better access to those indriya vishayas and the sukha that we believe comes from them, right? So, so the point is that that is the cause of our samsara, because we become more and more attached to the idea of indriya vishaya, and our samsara continues to exist. So avidya drives this whole process.
yes, sir. So ultimately, like you said, that either through artha, I'll directly consume material stuff and then get material happiness, or
Yeah.
using that artha, I may do some dharmic activities, which in turn will give me some material happiness. So ultimately, I'm seeking some material happiness, or say kam purushartha. But then why is it called a purushartha? Even in your later slides, you said kam is also one of the gates to help. So I can understand that, okay, artha can help in sustaining the society or in doing dharmic karma. So arth or dharma can still get a leeway. But why is kama considered a purushartha as well? Because uh, in many other bhakti shastras, even calm is said ki go above your material enjoyment or sensual enjoyment. So why are we, I mean, how to resolve this?
Yeah. So it's considered a purushartha because it's one of the four broad things which a human being pursues. The four objectives, that four different types of objectives that a human being has. Some people are devoted to dharma as the primary objective of life. Some people are devoted to kama, some people are devoted to artha, and some people are devoted to moksha, or some people are devoted to a mix of these things. So because it's like that, these are called the four purusharthas. And there are four ways in which people look for happiness. Now, kama, when it is dharma sangata kama, see, the kama can be pursued in two ways. One is dharma viruddha kama, dharma sangata kama. Dharma sangat
Yes.
kama is when we pursue material enjoyment. Although our goal is material enjoyment, we pursue it through the Veda, the Karma Kanda portion of the Veda, through the Shastra. Okay, the Shastra says that do this yajna. By doing this yajna, in the process of doing the yajna, what happens? The Shastra tells one to give dan, to observe some vratas, to do something else, to not eat certain kinds of food for certain types of days, certain number of days. By doing all that, the Shastra actually purifies one's consciousness. So, such a pursuit of kama, dharma sangata kama, is not naraka dwara. When it's referring to kama as one of the three dwaras for naraka, for the three doors to naraka, There, it's talking about dharma viruddha kama. Kama,
Okay.
krodha, lobha. Dharma viruddha kama. That is kama done. In the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, if you read it, you'll see how asuratvam, kama pursued under the influence of tamoguna, where there is no knowledge, there is no shastra. Ashastra vihitam goram tapyante tapojanaha. So these people, they perform tapasya, they perform activities disregarding shastra. Like today, like today's society does that. No, who follows shastra? People pursue kama relentlessly. There's no shastra considered
Right.
at all, right? So that is naraka.
Right.
That is the door to naraka. Dharma viruddha kama.
Right.
You
But
understand?
sir, again, yes, sir. Yes, sir. But again, if I see overall, so Srimad Bhagavad Gita would teach us that go even beyond Kam Purushartha. I mean, try to go
Yeah.
in pursuit of Bhakti or Moksha Purushartha. So Kam
Yes.
Purushartha is on a lower level from the lens of Srimad Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah. Bhagavad Gita is focused on the fourth one, moksha. Dharma, artha, kama, moksha.
Mm-hmm.
Gita is moksha shastra. There are other
Right.
shastra for kama. The karma kanda of the Veda is kama focused, kama and artha focused.
Right.
And similarly,
Right.
there are portions of the Veda which are dharma focused, which tell you the duties that you need to do as a Brahmana, as a Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, whatever you are, according to the birth that you have got and the kind of environment you have been put into, you have certain duties. That is
Mm-hmm.
dharma, right? So Gita is not about all of them. Gita is not about the first three of them. It's about the fourth one,
Correct.
moksha.
Correct. 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 And sir, for the four Purusharthas, can it be loosely mapped to the four Vargas? I mean, in the Varnashrama. So, can it be mapped, for example, say, the Vaishya is more suited for Artha Purushartha or something like that? Can there be a
No,
mapping done?
no, 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 no. All the four of them can pursue all the four purusharthas, depending on their consciousness. All the four of them, all the four varnas should aim to pursue moksha. That's what the Gita says.
Mhm.
The Gita is not only for brahmanas, it's for all the four of them.
Yes, sir.
And not only for those
Thank you,
four,
sir.
and not only for those who are in the varnashrama, even those who are not in varnashrama, they
Mhm.
can pursue what Gita says. It's for everybody, all human beings.
Right, right.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
But their duties, the duties of the different varnas would be different, but the ultimate fruits, which is moksha, can be the same.
Yes, that's what he says in the 18th chapter. By following one's given duty perfectly, without thinking of the other person's duty, without trying to do the other person's duty, one does one's own duty sincerely, then one is on the path to moksha.
Yes,
Hmm.
yes. It gives some clarity. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Yes, Nachiket. Nachiket, yes.
Hari Om, sir. I think Jayashree ma'am had raised her hand before me if she wants to talk.
That's okay. You can ask first. She can speak later.
Okay, okay, sir. Sir, a few months ago, I was reading this Adhyatma Ramayana,
Hmm.
and you had mentioned about bhakti being the fastest way towards God, right?
Yeah.
But in that, in one of the verses in the beginning, in the initial chapters, I remember reading that confrontation and hatred towards God is much easier and the fastest way towards liberation than even bhakti. So that got me thinking. That means that people who actually hate God or talk bad against God are the people who attain moksha faster than that. So can you add some thoughts on why? I didn't understand the statement at all. So can you add some thoughts on why that should be like that?
Yeah. Like, for example, Putana got moksha. Putana came to kill Krishna, but because she came like a mother, it is said that he considered her, gave her the status that he would give to a mother, and she tried to feed him milk. So, because she offered something to him, even though it was with deception, because of his compassion, he gave her moksha, right? So, these things are shown in the Shastra, not to advocate. The idea there is not to tell us that we should become like them. It is to only show that Bhagavan is a very kind person. He's very compassionate. He's very eager to somehow or other give mukti to the jiva. So anybody who comes in contact with him gets that benefit in some way or the other. So the idea is not that we should now use Putana as an example and say, now I'll try to kill Krishna and then go to him. If we do that, we will only go to Naraka. That is not a sadhana. It's not an advocated path. So it's only to show us that he's very kind. He's so kind that even to such people, he's this thing. So what to speak of? That it's called Kaimutya Nyaya. Kaimutya Nyaya means, we say in English, what to speak of. Even for this, he's doing that. Even for such a person, he's giving so much benefit. Why he will not give to you? If you do simple bhakti, even a small amount of bhakti, he will give you enormous benefit, because even to somebody who came to kill him, he gave such huge benefit. To make that point, those things are shown. That's all. Not otherwise.
Okay, sir. Understood the context. Thank
To
you so
show
much.
his kindness. Yeah, to show his kindness. Good. Jayashree, want to say something?
Yes, first, just add to what you said to Nachiketa's question, that uh, uh, hating Bhagavan and attaining him is not for all of us. It is only if Bhagavan desires it so. Like in the case of Jaya Vijaya, he desired it that they should um, be born 3 times, hating Bhagavan. So because he wanted, they came, they took birth as Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, hated him, got killed. And then they came as Ravana and Kumbhakarna. And then again, the next life, they came as Shishupala and Dantavakra. So because he wanted, they came, and because of his grace or his kripa, they could hate him. But hating Bhagavan is not for the ordinary person. That is what I have understood so far from whatever little I have read. So Nachiketa, that's not a generalized statement. In fact, our effort should be to develop preeti towards Bhagavan, not the other way around.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much.
And then, okay, this Sarthak's question, Sarthak, that Kama Purushartha you were saying, no? So the word Kama has so many meanings in Sanskrit, and it varies from context to context. So Kama is not always bad. In fact, we have Kamadeva, no? who is said to be Avatara, I mean, not Avatara, who is said to be an Amsha of Vishnu himself. So, Kama by itself is not bad, but the way we apply Kama is what makes us good or bad. Like if we have a desire, to worship Bhagavan, it is a good Kama. It's a desired Kama. But if the Kama is used to harm somebody, hate somebody, then it is bad Kama. So that way we have to take the Kama Purushartha, not otherwise.
Yes, so directing our emotions towards Sri Bhagwan.
Yes, and Kama is required all the time, because even to do bhakti, you need that desire, no? The desire to do bhakti. So Kama will never ever leave you. Even after you get moksha, you will need Kama. Only the nomenclature may change.
Right. Yes, ma'am.
But the Ichha should never ever leave, no? We should never have the, you should never be in a state where we don't have the desire to do bhakti to Bhagavan.
Yes, ma'am.
So
That's a very deep point, insightful point. Yes, thank you, ma'am. Sir, even I had one comment to make, if I am permitted to.
Please.
Yes, thank you, sir. So this is regarding the Putana story. So I read this on the internet, so I am not sure how accurate this is. But what I have read is that during the Vamana avatar of Sri Bhagavan, so when he first appeared as the dwarf Brahmin, so the princess of Raja Bali was attracted towards that kid, and she felt that I should be that kid's mother. I want to breastfeed him. And then Sri Vamana takes that universal being form, and then instantly all the material wealth of Bali Maharaj is taken away. So that was a blessing in disguise. But anyways, what happens is the material existence is taken off. So that also infuriates the princess, and she wishes that I should get to attempt to kill this person. So Shri Bhagwan then decides to fulfill both her wishes, to let her be mother-like and also at the same time permit her to attempt to murder him. So that is why then she takes birth as Putna and gets moksha. So this is what I read on the internet, but I am not sure of the veracity of this account.
Okay. Any other question? I think today we have reached the end of our time. So we'll close the class now. And if anybody wants to connect with me in the week, please feel free to do so. Om स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्तां न्यायेन मार्गेण महिं महिषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यो शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। धन्यवाद। पुनर्मिलामः।